Hi everybody, this is Tom Grisak again, and I do these interviews with Mayor Lessner about every 6 months. He's fantastic because he's such in the know about what's happening in Fairview. And I'm also here with Christy Zemeyer, which is one of our great agents, so she's probably going to have some questions for Mayor Lessner too. So let's start off with, we were actually, before I set this up, we were talking about your conversation with Miss Billingsley. Tell us about that.
I meet fairly often now with Henry and Lucy Billingsley. Billingsleys are the company that is going to develop the 242 acres up in the northwest corner of our town. The Peatfish property, a Peatfish family owned it and still owns it, I think. They're partners with them. And that's going to be a large mixed-use development, office space, some apartments. We're looking for some really good restaurants, and there'll probably be some retail in there as well. But they really focus on office space. And they're just really nice. They're extremely professional at what they do. They've been very available to us. I was relating a story to Tom and Christy before we started this about I provide speakers for our Rotary Club here in Fairview. And my speaker backed out kind of at the last minute, and I called Lucy Billingsley, and Lucy was on vacation up in New York City. And she took an hour and a half out of her vacation to visit with our Rotary Club over Zoom. So just, she's very flexible and likes to be around people, likes to talk about her business. My conversations with them, they've been very accommodating to some of our concerns. One of the big ones has always been for me is to keep traffic away from the eastern side, just so in case somebody listening to this doesn't know what we're talking about. This is 242 acres on the northwest corner of Fairview between US 75 and Greenville, US Highway 5. Up in that area, we're just south of the McKinney Medical Center.
And north of Fairview Town Center.
North of Fairview Town Center, yes, the Lincoln property. So they're going to be up there. One of the things, again, as I mentioned, was to try to keep traffic away. So what I've seen is most of the traffic will be directed towards the access road. As many of you who are listening to this may or may not know, we're looking to keep traffic off of Highway 5, off of Greenville. Right. And in longer term, when Fairview Parkway gets built, we're going to kind of push traffic up through where the Billingsley development is, and keep it off of Highway 5 away from our residential areas and stuff. So they've been very accommodating with that. They're aware of our need for open space. Lucy, like me, is a big tree hugger. Her developments have lots and lots and lots of trees. They like water features. I don't know if they're doing one here, but most of the other developments have some sort of water feature. So we will see what exactly they're thinking about doing. And again, This is going to be broad kind of thing, first brush. But I know they've put at least a good year and a half into working on this. Looking at we have what's called a form-based code. Our zoning in our Central Plain Development District is a little different than the rest of the town, where we have, in the residential side, we have RE1, RE2, that sort of thing, 1 acre, 2 acre, 3 acre kind of things. Over here, it's very different. It's urban kind of zoning, but it's very, very particular about what it looks like, how buildings are oriented, what kind of landscaping, what the windows have to look like, what the exterior looks like, roof lines, all that kind of stuff. And those were things that were done by the town council 2014, somewhere in that time frame. So it's been a while. So they've been working on that with our staff and our planning staff, with Julie and with Israel, and I think maybe the EDC's been involved as well. Looking at that and seeing what needs to be changed, and there'll be some tweaks and stuff that we'll have to do with that to accommodate some of the things that they want to do, maybe even updating what we've done before in the past. But I'm excited about what we're going to see on July 12th.
That's a good thing to attend.
Big deal.
Sure.
Big deal.
We see, out of the 20 some years I've been out here, I've seen these projects come in, been announced, and then they just fizzle away. You never know what happens.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Like right across the street, what was it called? Monarch?
What was Monarch Place?
I don't know what happened to them.
Well, I'll tell you what happened to that. Howard Hughes Corporation was the developer there. Howard Hughes Corporation, go back before COVID, kind of did a corporate reorganization and stuff, and decided they needed to shed some of the properties they had. and they didn't sell it at the time, but they basically said they weren't going to develop it, and they put it on sale. So the Billingsleys now have that property.
So they
too.
got both sides of
They
75.
have both sides of 75.
Wow.
Yes. So we've talked about that with the Billingsleys. As a matter of fact, they called us to tell us that so we wouldn't be concerned that we are
Right,
first,
right.
and then that's
wondering
coming.
about
We're
that.
we're a lot further
Good.
along on this side than
Good.
it was over there.
Will it be a similar project?
It'll be a mixed-use development, same thing. Not unlike what Howard Hughes Corporation was going to do. But when you talk to, I mentioned Lucy is like a tree hugger.
Yeah.
So Lucy is more into us kind of
Yeah.
look
Right.
over,
Right.
somewhat like Legacy West over there, what they're doing in Frisco. So I'm going to guess that they're going to be a little bit more stone, brick, that kind of thing look on their buildings. A little bit more that blends in with the landscape, which is
Right.
what
Right.
she
More
likes to
natural.
do.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
I'm excited about that.
What's their preliminary timing? I mean, if everything goes smoothly with the town of Fairview, these things take time, I know, but
So there's a lot of things that have to happen here before they actually break ground to do something. The first thing that we as the town of Fairview, and we're doing this regardless of what Billingsley does or not, but it is important for them that we do this, and that is Frisco Road. As you know, Frisco Road is the only exit on the four corners directly off of
Right.
121 up there. You drive there, and we're thinking about changing the name of the road, by the way, something that
should.
reflects
That
Fairview.
makes sense.
And so it'll come out, it'll come off. If you've been here as long as I did, remember when 121 was a 2-lane blacktop road. That road it was actually a 2-lane road. You could go from Highway 5 directly onto 121. Obviously, it's only one way right now, but when it gets across 75, the 75 access road, it will be a 2-lane street. It'll be a 4-lane road, a concrete road, median with landscape in the median, that sort of thing. And the big deal about that is it's going to interconnect with Country Club 1378. So
right behind the hospital.
right
Is that
behind, yeah. So it's
Okay.
behind the hospital now. It's going to be moved south. Is where it's going to go. So
Okay.
it's going to move south. There's about 5 little homes in there, if I recall.
Right.
Those homes, I think 2 or 3 of them are still occupied. The Pete Fish family owns them. The people have been notified that they will be gone at some point. So on Frisco Road, our town manager keeps her ears up for things like this, but we've got a federal grant that's covering 75% of the cost of that road for us.
Fantastic.
So we're thinking the hospital may kick in a little bit of money associated with that as well, and we are funding the rest of that. We as Fairview are funding the rest of that out of developer fees that we've collected for roads that have been built over the years. So that will eliminate, big deal is eliminate the congestion. If you go up there in the morning or in the afternoon, it's kind of a mess up there. The other thing is, so there'd be a nice 90-degree intersection there. You don't have to go up and drive 300 feet and turn left again and stuff to get on 121 to get that way or go to the hospital. The other reason that we're doing this is with TxDOT, and again, when is TxDOT going to do this? Who knows? But they have a plan to bring Highway 5 coming south out of McKinney, 4 lanes into Fairview. There'll be 4 lanes through that intersection right around where that Korean Methodist church is up there. And so when they put 4 lanes divided in there, that cuts off our access to the hospital right now. So I've driven it numerous times. I'm guessing other people have done this too. But if we don't move if we lose that left-hand turn there into Frisco Road as it exists today, it's another 5 or 6 minutes. You got to go all the way down to the intersection with Spur 399, come back around on the access road, couple lights, and come back under the bridge to get to the hospital. That's 5 to 6 minutes. If you're in the back of an ambulance, we don't want that to happen.
So it looks great from a helicopter, but it's hard to get
Right.
to.
It's hard to get to. So that's really kind of the genesis when we started doing it. But it's good for the Billingsleys. It'd be good for the hospital, frankly. So we have to do a couple pieces of property land swaps with the city of McKinney, and our staff is working on that right now. I expect to see that we will let it out for bids here shortly. Probably our next council meeting, maybe. We'll have a design, maybe late, early fourth quarter, something like that, and maybe kick off construction at the beginning of 2022. They figure it's going to take them 10 to 12 months to complete the construction. So that's a big deal. So your question about Billingsley. So I don't think Billingsley's going to do anything until we get that road done.
Okay.
And
That makes sense.
then what will happen? We'll probably hear about this on July 12th. What are they going to do from the perspective of what are they going to build first? I don't know what that is yet. There's some other things happening on that property right now. If you drive up the access road along 75 going north, you look off on your right, you can see there's construction going on back in there. There is a regional pump station, sewage pump station in there that North Texas Municipal Water District, the City of Allen, and Fairview are jointly going in with that. And
I'm gonna have to fly that with my drone.
Yeah,
Yes,
your drone would
that's
be
a
good.
great
Yeah,
idea.
so that is under construction. It's back in there, and then where that is physically located, it's just north of where Sloan Creek is.
Okay.
If you drive up the access road, Sloan Creek actually crosses two places, and then it comes together back in there. It's north of the northern little branch there, and all that stuff. Originates under the bridge over there somewhere. I don't know where it's. I think that's where Sloan Creek starts. There is some little ponds and stuff over in that area where we're talking about where Howard Hughes and stuff, Monarch Park was going to be. So that'll be done, but it's somewhere right north of that. And my understanding is maybe that's going to be a fairly large open area in their development, a park.
Is this what you spend the majority of your time, would you say, on projects like this?
No.
Or what do you spend most?
No.
And by the way, congratulations on your win.
Thank you very much, and
yeah.
thank you to the
Congratulations.
residents of Fairview for supporting me.
So you're in for 2 more years,
I'm in
right?
for 2 more years. Yeah.
Well, they're lucky to have you.
I appreciate
I've said
that,
this
Tom.
often. You're passionate about Fairview, and you know all of the issues. You're so tied in, so it's always fun to talk to you because I know I'm going to hear about things that I never would have known unless I sat here with
appreciate
you.
So what do I spend my time on?
Exactly.
So talking to residents about issues.
That was going to be one of my questions.
Okay, so kind of the couple 3 big issues that we have, and they're kind of, one used to be drainage was the issue, and drainage physically affects. We have some older neighborhoods that have been here for a long time. We as Fairview, the town of Fairview, really didn't have a staff until around 2000, somewhere in that time frame.
Mm-hmm.
So, these developments, Fox Glen, Countryside,
Right.
River
Right.
Oaks 1,
Right.
there's the Kentucky Lane area, all that. All those places, there are drainage problems in there.
Right.
So we have, Christy, by the way, for those listening, she's from Chicago, so she's coming up here.
Yeah.
So she doesn't know this. So most of the east side of Fairview there's no storm drains. So water rolls downhill. Mm-hmm. And so as water rolls downhill, it sometimes people make modifications to their landscape and kind of consolidate it, and it sometimes ends up in somebody's
And more
living room.
concrete comes in.
A little,
and it-
yeah, that to some degree, and yeah, it does affect that, the roads and stuff. But honestly, we've been through this with engineers so many times. That is less an issue than it just rains more sometimes now. We've had reports, studies on when it rains. Since 2015, I think it is. The amount of annual rainfall that we get in the wet years is significantly more than it used to be.
I would think it'd be just the opposite.
No, it's significantly more.
Interesting.
So, and people say climate change and all
Right.
that. I don't know. It's weather to me. And it just happened, it's raining. So when it rains, we've got some folks that we've actually had people get water in their houses. And we got to fix that. So the council has been looking at this for quite a while. Just recently, this year, we went through and set some priorities, and where it affects an individual house is obviously first priority. And so we're working on, we're going in and doing a study literally right now in Fox Glen neighborhood.
Yeah, that was,
And
some of that appears to be in the flood, or used to be, against the creek.
well, if you there's water that's supposed to drain off and go in the creek, and then there's an issue with the creek.
Okay.
So with the creek is another problem. It's caused by water going into the creek, but I'm going to address that separately. I'm worried about water running from one neighbor to the other, one neighborhood from one neighborhood. So in Fox Glen, for instance, water comes in out of the Lakewood area,
Right.
and it happens to hit, goes into 2 or 3 houses, and this one
Right.
gentleman out there who, lucky for me, he's a friend of mine, but he's gotten water in his house 3 times in the
Wow.
past year or so.
Oh no.
bet I know the home.
So we need to. So we're going to go in there, and there's also areas in that neighborhood where it lays for a long time because it's very flat,
Right.
and it doesn't drain. The road, I forget the name of the road. It runs kind of east and west through there, but that road kind of acts as a dam and keeps the water from going into the creek.
Is that maple? Am I thinking that?
I don't remember. That's
Okay.
terrible. I mean, one of them's hackberry and one of them's pecan, but it's the one that goes.
Cottonwood?
You could say it, and I wouldn't know.
Okay, all right.
It's not registering right now. But anyway, we've been down there, and what we need to do is we have a consulting engineer firm doing this for us. Somebody we're familiar with has done stuff before, and they will be coming back probably in the next 60 days or so with these are the things we need to do. And it's going to be things like bar ditches, culverts under driveways, culverts under the road. There will be an easement. We've talked to some of the folks over there about easements that they need to grant to the town, and they're willing to do this. So just to get the water out
Right.
of the neighborhood and drain faster, and also direct water where it's coming from one neighborhood. Again, people make modifications to their own landscape, and it works well for them, but it pushes it onto somebody else's property and causes it. So Foxglen's one of the ones that we're going to do. Countryside, little small development. 2 streets, Home Place and Farmstead. There's one home there that is, and actually we didn't know this, but a new resident moved in, and welcome to Fairview. I think it was in December. He moved in November, and December got water in his house.
Oh,
It wasn't ours. We
yeah.
didn't sell it.
Yeah.
No, you didn't do this. But anyway, so
But Harper Landing was delayed for quite a while because of
Harper's Landing was that's a whole other story. I'll hit that one after they hit
Okay.
these. But these are so Countryside. We're going to do a project. It's been designed. There's some issue with one backyard that we need to do some stuff there and how that gets done. And our town engineer James and our public works folks are going to do the work there. It's a job we can handle internally. We're looking at, I'm going to address the creek now. So the creek, we've talked about this for years. It was one of my big deals. With Harper's Landing, when Harper's Landing was being developed, this goes back 2017, 2018. And you being in real estate, you would know this, but the original developer of that, basically they went bankrupt.
Right.
And one of the reasons they went bankrupt because the town was so stringent about what
holding
we're
their
trying
feet
to
the
do.
fire.
Well, we held their feet to the fire. I mean, they did one thing that we weren't, cut some trees down we didn't like, but the big deal was we were looking for a way to use that property to try to minimize water coming up into people's yards on the north side of the creek.
Right.
So there's a huge swale cut in there, and then there's other swales down there to keep water off some of the property that's up there along the creek, that sort of thing. And by the way, it's working really well over there. The water still gets up into backyards over there, though, and it's more down on Meander Rio as opposed to Camino Real. It's further down, and those houses are fairly far away from the creek. So, but there are 2 in there that it's really close, and one of them I know has gotten water in.
Is it going to get worse, do you think?
So it could potentially get worse, because one, it's development, but I mean, bottom line, it's just. That's all the property, all the
go
land
somewhere.
goes in that creek. And, we've looked at different ways, building a huge detention pond somewhere, just off of Highway 5 over there. I mean, it's like $20 million or something like that to do something like that. Enormously expensive. The thing that we've had going on, though, is since kind of I really figured out what was going on here with the problem, is we've figured out how to get the Corps of Engineers involved. Mm-hmm. And they have been out here a couple of times. They meet with James. I've met with him not recently, but probably, I guess last year was the last time. But they are supposedly trying to figure out a way to do a study on the Wilson Creek watershed, which is 76 square miles. Wilson Creek originates up in Salina. And we were concerned. This goes back about 2 months ago, and you may know this, but there's a brand new development up there called Wilson Creek something.
I didn't know.
And guess what? It's right where it originates.
Really?
And it's a 1,400 acre development, a lot of houses, and they're going to put more water in the creek.
Know about it. It's
So-
in McKinney, then I guess.
No, it's in Salina.
Oh, Salina.
Yeah, it starts in Salina. So it goes through Salina, it goes through Frisco, it goes, Town Lake in McKinney. That's a detention pond.
Okay.
But as you leave that and you get where the old golf course used to be there, that now they're building houses there, but there's two other detention ponds in there. The question is, do we need something bigger in there? Or is there something that needs to be done downstream as you go across a road?
You want to explain the difference between detention and retention ponds?
Detention is when it holds it just for a short period of time. Retention,
just detains it.
It holds it.
Right.
So Town Lake is a retention pond.
Right.
A detention pond would be if you're on Fairview Parkway right over here. There's one outside. There's actually
Yes.
a detention and a retention pond right across the street from each other as you go up Fairview Parkway. We put a detention pond behind the fire station over here, Fire Station 1.
Mm-hmm.
Again, collect the water, congregate in one place, control how much of it goes out into the creeks and stuff.
Okay.
If you go into Apples Crossing, that is a huge detention pond, not retention, detention pond.
Okay.
And that is, and it's not wet all the time. I mean, since you've been here, it's been wet all the time. It's been wet for a long time because we've had a lot of rain. But that is a detention pond, and the purpose of it is that drains but probably half of the 242 acres, and the hospital and all that stuff goes down into there, and then it's constrained by there's a hole at the end of that, and that's all the water gets out of that.
Mm-hmm.
So there is the engineers know how to we want so much water coming from here, and here, and they determine what it's going to do going downfield. So downstream, I mean. So anyway, the big deal with Wilson Creek and the bank erosion and stuff like that, it's really, there's not much we can do about that as a town.
Right.
And a lot of, the Wilson Creek stuff causing backup on Sloan Creek. I mean, the only people that are able to help us it's the Corps of Engineers.
Mm-hmm.
And you may have seen me write about this. Van Taylor, our congressman, has helped us. He actually is a person in Washington who calls me up every once in a while and says, what's going on with this? Is everything going?
Mm-hmm.
Do we need to do something? So the Corps has become a little bit more interested.
Proactive, yeah.
They have a congressman looking over their shoulder.
Yeah.
So thank you, Van Taylor. Anyway, but that's a lot about drainage.
Okay. Let me shift to
very
gears.
Yeah,
I want to ask
interesting,
you,
though.
Apples Crossing. I'm so glad to see affordable housing coming
Yes.
into Fairview.
Yeah.
And then there's the other, what's the subdivision called at Greenville and Stacy Road? Those townhomes or single.
Wooded Creek Villas.
Okay.
We have the villas in the park on the west side and Wooded Creek Villas.
Okay.
Yeah, it's.
I don't remember the name, but it's so for a long time, just Fairview was priced out of people's budget. But
Yes.
now you do have some, and I'm assuming Apples Crossing is doing pretty well.
They are selling them before they're built.
Yeah.
And they're every lot. We talked about this last night at the council meeting. I think there are maybe 10 lots there. They're all approved. Everything is sold before they build it. So yeah, they're just snapping them up like this.
Yeah.
A lot of it's kind of fun to go in there. You think about, we got some people in town that are not happy about some of that stuff, but affordable housing is a big deal.
It is.
And forget about there are political issues about having affordable housing, because if you don't have affordable housing, we had this here in Fairview a number of years ago when Darian was mayor, and there are people down in Dallas who look at places where it's all wealthy, rich people,
And they want to make you get
and they
affordable
want to
housing.
make you have it.
Yeah.
And we almost had two tax credit type developments here. One where the Solera apartments are, and one where Apples Crossing is.
I didn't know that.
And if we had, I can tell you that story separately, but when that happens, the town cannot take a position. We were literally
Right.
going out to neighborhoods saying, don't say anything.
Right.
And the reason that it stopped, Jody Lomberg was our House of Representatives representative at the time, and Jody, and the fact that we had other options, we ended up with the Solera Apartments, really nice development,
Yeah.
some nice trails. We got a big park behind there that came out of that. And
Is
then Apples
by the way,
Crossings.
that happened in Saxey.
Yeah.
That exact same thing. They said you don't have affordable housing. We're going to make you have
Yep.
affordable
Yep.
housing. So is the pressure off on that now?
I have not. I almost hate to talk about it. I have not heard from
Yeah.
those folks in a long time.
Yeah, I don't
so-
know how land is so expensive now. How can you force affordable housing when lot prices
Well,
and land
it's-
That's a
prices
great
are so
question.
incredibly high?
Yeah.
Who's going to pay the difference? I mean,
The
who's going to?
taxpayers pay for it. They get
Yeah.
tax credits. That's how it's done. And the
I
tax
guess.
credits are big enough to make it where it's worthwhile for somebody to go in and build it.
Yeah.
And, McKinney, when all that was happening, McKinney ended up with some additional, low-income housing. Frisco ended
Yeah.
up having some low-income housing. Allen hasn't had any yet that I'm aware of, but we were targeted. They literally targeted the town.
I'm
of
like
Fairview.
you. I'm always wary about putting something out
Yeah.
there about what a great community this
Yeah.
is, because people look at it and say, "Well, it's great for you, but
Yeah.
that's not going to help us down
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
So let's even the playing field." And,
Yeah.
you know,
Do you know of any additional construction projects of like equal value of lower end housing that are
In where?
going in like Fairview area?
There are none in
None,
Fairview. No,
yeah.
no. There will be more apartments in Fairview, and that's
east of along
it's all
Greenville
everything.
Avenue.
Everything's west
Along Greenville.
west of Greenville, and again, I'm not sure why. And I say this publicly. I'm not sure why.
What the
Some
objection
folks-
is,
well,
I agree,
because all the
Yeah.
traffic goes the other way. It
Yeah.
doesn't really affect anything.
and it's helping
It's true.
your
And
tax base.
It's tax base, and it also helps the fact that we have affordable housing here. We have a various types of housing. That's the big deal. Yeah, we've got the 17,000 square foot houses and $1.7 million average or something. I think you told me last time we talked over single family homes. But if you go around telling everybody that, we're a target.
Right.
We are on the
Right.
map for
Right.
not being that way.
Well,
So-
things change,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
just hope people realize how lucky they are to live in Fairview, because it really is. I call it a small town with a big presence, because it really does have a big presence, and I think a lot of cities model themselves after Fairview. I mean, look at this. You've got this a 4-story building?
This is a 4-story
A
building.
town of 8,000 people with their own full-service fire department, police
Yeah, yeah.
department, and a 4-story. How many towns of that size can afford it? So it doesn't, it's a lot of things that factor into that. Lincoln Town,
And
or
we-
Fairview Town Center,
Yeah.
and all the stuff along.
And we also have the lowest tax rate
yes,
of a full-service town anywhere around here for sure.
yeah,
Yeah. So
I-
yeah,
yeah. Well,
we're Fairview has. Go back in time. It's been exceedingly well managed.
yeah, it
People
has.
have done a really, really good job. Good vision. And as I've made this comment somewhere else, I stand on the shoulders of the other people who
Right.
started this. So we're trying to keep going with what was thought about 20, 30, 40 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And what you're seeing is what was thought about
And
20,
it's
30,
good to
40.
see how proactive, like with
Yeah.
all the drainage that you're
Mm-hmm.
correcting.
We're trying to
with the
fix
people
things
are
that
getting
were
water,
done a long time ago. Yeah.
Well, what about as far as I know you had goals for streets to get all of them? Have all the problem streets been corrected? The ones that were, in substandard shape.
Yes, we went through. This was done when Darian was mayor. We went through and basically redid all the asphalt streets
That's
in
what
town.
I thought. I didn't know if you finished
There
that.
still are. There's, we had what has happened over the years, and I'll attribute this to our town manager Julie Couch. We now have kind of money in the budget that's set aside for asphalt street repair and now concrete street repair. We are, I remember when I moved here in 1990, and I remember when Oakwood was first developed. Oakwood, big deal was it was concrete streets. And the issue, of course, concrete streets are a lot more expensive to build than asphalt streets. And now we are having to go back in. We've been in Oakwood recently. You're probably aware of this at the entrance off of Stacy. We've had to go in and do some concrete repair there.
Okay, I thought you were bringing utilities in up Statue Road.
No,
so
that
that's,
had nothing to do
I
with
didn't realize
repairing
that.
concrete streets.
Yeah.
And then in the neighborhood I live in right now, in Sloan Creek Estates, there was 100 feet of concrete that had to be repaired. It was actually
I thought
stinking.
once concrete goes in, it's good for 40
It
or
is
50
typically
years.
40 years or so. Yeah.
So what happened? Inferior concrete job, you think?
No, I think it was just in my neighborhood, it was sinking. It was flat.
Okay.
And it was going like this.
Okay.
In the concrete in Oakwood, it was also it was sinking. If
Yeah.
you listen to weather kind of things, streets, the ground underneath it moves up and down. But also when it's hot, I just heard this recently the other day. Fort Worth had a bunch of problems. Their streets were buckling because of the heat. This is it was 98, 99 degrees the other day, a couple days ago. they had streets that were actually buckling, concrete streets.
Wait till it gets 105 and 110.
Yeah. Well, and that happens. So I haven't seen that here, but it moves around.
Yeah.
It's not that.
Yeah.
But we have the next big street. I mean, we're going to do Frisco Road. The next big street is Hart Road. Hart Road is an old county road that the town took over a number of years ago, and there are drainage problems associated with it, especially in the north side. Water drains from Fairview Meadows into there. Harbor Oaks goes in there. There's that rural area there that has the Longhorns on. That drains in there, and that comes around. So we've made some drainage improvements at the corner of Hart and 1378. It was actually just last year, I think we did that. And water then drains off there better. It doesn't pool on 1378, which is obviously dangerous. But that water is coming down on the north side of the road, starting to erode the base. So we're looking at minimum from where St. James comes out over to 1378. But we're also considering doing all the way down to Puster Elementary.
Okay.
So
Keep the same. You're not going to widen it or do anything like that.
It may be slightly wider,
but you're not going to take out the trees. That was the big fear on the north side.
If there is anything taken out, it'll probably, and the folks that live along there haven't heard this, so if they're listening to this, they're going to hear it for the first time from me. But most likely to be on the north side of the road. The town has easements along there, the bar ditches, and there's several, 3-4 houses right there that have mailboxes and lights and stuff.
Yeah.
That's in the town easement. So most likely, again, when as part of the project, that'll be moved back, and so we'll probably have to do something along there. The other thing that people have been after for quite a long time along there is sidewalks. It is a narrow road, but it's kind of like we talk about highway. There's unfortunately, a lot of traffic on there, especially going back and forth to Puster Elementary. But there are a lot of people that run and kids that ride their go-karts.
Yeah,
and all
Fairview
sorts of stuff.
isn't, with the exception of Stacy Road. Fairview, there aren't a lot of sidewalks in Fairview when you go into the subdivisions.
Yeah, when you're back in the areas with no, with no concrete streets, or even Oakwood has. So it's been a long time desire to put a sidewalk, a trail along that. We've talked before about these properties, Stoddard, Pizzulli, Kelly. When those properties are developed, part of the deal is they're supposed to put a sidewalk on, a 10-foot sidewalk. And so that'll be done down at that end. We can extend it up through those couple of homes there along in Fairview Meadows. And then there is a sidewalk already at Harbor Oaks. They've already built that as part of that. So, and then we'd extend it through, there's trees there that it's bushes more likely. It had to be taken down there. But, we're planting other trees and stuff along there.
Why don't you talk about the what you just mentioned, the Stoddard, the land around Pizzulli, and Kelly, what he's doing, the development there, the zoning on that. Okay. I know there was a lot of battles on that as far as zoning size for the lots.
Yes. So we were sued. The town was sued on that. We negotiated a settlement with the 3 property owners, and that is all done and done with. I think I'm certainly happy with what happened. Stoddard, we ended up with 2-acre lots, minimum 2 acre. I think 1 or 2.
And it had been 3 acres.
It had been 3 acres, and we went to 2 acres. And it's all the only entrance into the subdivision is off of 1378. We want to keep traffic off of Hart. There will be an emergency access off of Hart for fire, entrance and stuff like that.
A knockout.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And then there will be the trail there with significant landscaping there. So that is.
I think Tony Pruch is doing that.
Tony Pruch is, yeah. They've got. I see his signs there. That's all I know that.
Yeah.
And then Pizzulli has a smaller property. I think there are five lots in there.
I think Tony's doing that too.
That I do not know.
I believe he is because
yeah.
he talked about whether he was going to leave that school there or not. Yeah. And I think he's going to take it down. But
I would think he would have to take that down if he's going to build something there. I mean, it's a fairly significant. It takes
that,
up a whole lot.
And that would be the same zoning.
That is actually they're 1.5 acre lots.
Okay.
And then I think there's only 5 of them in there. And then they do have access to Hart because that's the only way in and out of there. And then Kelly, which is only access to again 1378 Country Club. And I think there are a total of, counting his main house, there's a total of 10 lots in there.
Okay.
There's one lot that's 1.2 acres, and most of them are 1.5. And one of the things that we kind of negotiated with them is on the northeast corner of that, if you're out there, there is a kind of a little pond and a whole bunch of trees and stuff there. So in lieu of 1.5 acres, we let him get a little smaller, as long as he keeps that.
That's right. I remember
So
hearing that.
we want the trees there. We need the little pond there for drainage, because everything kind of goes that way.
Yeah.
And so they've agreed to do that. And Tim Jackson, I see his
He's
signs
doing
over
all
there.
of those homes in there.
And I don't
Good.
know how far any of these are. They've come in, preliminary plots is all we've seen for those.
Tony is saying it's going to be end of this year. Those
Okay.
lots will be ready.
Okay,
But
good.
you know how that goes. Typically,
November.
you make a projection and it
Yeah.
moves out 6 months.
Well, I've heard that he's sold 8 of those lots, maybe.
That wouldn't surprise me a bit.
Yes, I
And
think 8 or 9.
he got a good price for those lots too.
Yeah. Guys, I can't tell you how crazy all the prices are, not just the homes, but lots. When you're, to get a lot now in Fairview, it's going to be $400,000 or $500,000. And then if you use that ratio, 3 times the price of the home for the lot, you're at $2 million. And that,
If you go in Chamberlain Place, which is 1 acre plus lots, some of them are large lots there along the creek. Every one of those lots is sold. Kingdom Estates, matter of fact, one person bought 2. There's 4 acres there. At
yeah,
the
he's
top of
building
the
a
hill.
10,000 square foot
He's
home.
building a big one, yeah, and those are all sold.
No, I didn't know that.
yeah,
That's fantastic.
they're all
Because that
sold.
was slow. That took a while.
Well,
to
they're
go.
all sold.
That's great.
And I do a drive around every once in a while, and I drove around just the other day and just to kind of check everything out again. And he's got Brandon Bush. There are 4 or 5 homes under construction in there. I mean, literally where you can see them doing something. Other ones have sold signs on, but yeah, he's got.
That was
and they're all
sluggish.
very large homes.
And so was Chamberlain. Chamberlain took a while to get started, but once they started,
Every single lot is sold.
yeah, it doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, and then, and I don't remember what we call it, but there's an extension of Chamberlain Place going north. If you remember, Chuck Williams owned all that property
Yes,
up there.
yes.
The northern part, they haven't built the road into that yet, and I don't know who's
You mean
doing
to the
that.
west or to the north?
I'm talking about to the north. If you go into
Chamberlain?
Chamberlain Place, you turn
Okay,
right, and it's
yeah,
kind of a big
right,
circle.
Right.
In the north, behind, there's some houses along Stoddard. It's
Right.
behind there,
Right.
between those houses and the Dart line back there.
Okay, yeah.
And there's another 10 or so lots back
I
in
didn't
there.
realize that.
There's an entrance if you 1378 turn into Stoddard and look to the right, it's right across from Kelly's property. There's a ranch style entrance kind of thing there with that's
Oh, yeah.
the northern entrance in there.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't remember who's doing that though. But that'll
okay.
be another one coming up.
Other
shortly.
than so, what is this?
Yeah.
How is does this impact Fairview at all with all of the Hart or the original Lovejoy Elementary being closed down for kids and everybody moving up to? How does that impact the traffic?
We're worried about the traffic at
Right.
Hart.
Yeah. So
All right,
I'll just say, the folks in the Lovejoy School District had an extremely difficult decision to make. One of the reasons, just what you're saying, how expensive things are around here. It's really hard for young families to buy a house around here. So the number of kids in the elementary schools has been declining.
Right.
And they had 3 elementary schools that were less than, I think all of them were less than 60% occupied. So, again, good move from a taxpayer perspective. They're going to repurpose Lovejoy Elementary School. It's going to be, elementary school. I forget there's a name for it,
Like
but
a pre-K.
pre-K kind of thing. And then they're also using it for staff. They're going to get rid of they have 10 temporary buildings around the school district. They're going to get rid of those, save some money. And people get upset about that. But I think they've done a really good job.
It makes sense. Everybody wants it to
Right.
be next to them.
I understand,
which I can understand.
and especially Stacy
Yeah.
Ridge.
Yeah.
I mean, that's walking for those
Yeah.
folks, and people bought there because of that. But all that being said, yes, there probably will be a traffic impact on this. We don't know what that is. I've talked with the superintendent over there, Katie, and Dennis Womack, who I know really well for years. We're going to have a meeting with them about this, and we've kind of put that off. Let Katie, their new superintendent, get her feet on the ground. But they're also doing some making busing options available.
Right.
So if you
Paid busing though, right? You
yeah,
have
but
pay
it's
busing,
like
but
$2 or something.
Oh,
It's
is it?
pretty
Okay.
cheap. I
All
mean,
right.
it's not very much. Well, that's me talking. I don't
Yeah.
have to pay for it.
Yeah.
But again, they've got a deficit they're trying to overcome because they ain't getting money. Again, there's no Title I students in
Yeah.
Lovejoy to speak of. They a wealthy school district, and the
Yeah.
state's not going to help them.
And guys, let me say this about
Yeah.
the school district too. All school districts are suffering right now because a lot of people are taking their kids out of the public schools or homeschooling. Attendance is down. Fairview's just impacted more because we are property wealthy districts, so we don't get a lot of the benefits of the other school district. So we've got to make that difference up, which we
Yeah.
do with things like denim and diamonds, things like that. But
The Lovejoy Foundations for Schools has been
Yeah.
extraordinary. So that's
Yeah.
Lovejoy residents
Right.
making contributions, participating in the fundraising efforts and stuff like that. They've done a really, really good
yeah,
job.
so don't listen to the people that are saying, Lovejoy ISD is going down. It's not.
No.
We're just tightening the belt, but services are just the same. Quality of education is just the same. So,
I've said this. The school board there has made Lovejoy over the years into the top 2 or 3 in the state of Texas. I mean, they have done a phenomenal job.
it's
those
always
folks.
Lovejoy, Carroll, and
Park.
Highland Park.
Those 3.
And those kind of,
Yeah,
there's
they
one in
s-
Austin now, but
Yeah.
those 3 always tend
Yep.
to switch between 1, 2,
So,
and 3.
and there's like 1,700 school districts in the state of Texas.
Yeah,
It's
it's
kind of hard
amazing.
to be critical of somebody who's
I
done that.
agree.
So, they've had a tough time with budget issues. It's really the state. If you want to get after somebody, go after the state. They're dealing with it the best they can. So, but there will be, as they shut down Lovejoy Elementary, depending upon how the busing thing works out, who decides. So my understanding how this will work is if you have children at Puster and they need to go to the high school or they need to go to Willow Springs or somewhere else, you'll be able to drop them off at Puster. They get on a bus and the bus will take them around
Right.
to wherever they need to go. Same thing down at Hart and maybe at Willow Springs and other places. But they're trying to figure all that out right
Yeah.
now. So we're going to kind of give them take
Hart
a
Road's
look.
going to be a busy road 2 times a day, though. I think.
That was my concern, is why when I first heard about this, again, I reached out to Dennis over there, Dennis Womack, and said, we need to meet and see how this is going to be done. So the town, there's been some people saying that, well, the town should provide traffic control for that, and obviously we will. But the school district also, we only have 2 officers on duty at any one time. So if somebody's sitting over there, we don't have people riding around. So they hire one of our officers. So I know we have one down at Willow Springs all the time. We have one over at Sloan Creek all the time. And so they will, we want to find out if they need to hire somebody in addition to the 2 that they do right now. But we'll get to that in July sometime after this busing arrangement is worked out, and they find out how many people are going to use it, where it's going to be, and they can come with us. Lovejoy does. I mean, I've worked with them on demographic kind of things, and they know what's going to happen. They're really
I've
really
seen their
well.
studies taken out 5 and
Yeah.
6 years.
They're
They've got it
really-
plotted out how many
Yeah.
how many homes are going to be in where
Yep.
it's all developed,
Yep.
how many students that's going to be. They're on top of the
They're
game.
really
Yeah.
good.
I have
Well-
a daughter who's going into 4th grade,
Uh-huh.
and with this change, we're zoned to go to Puster. So we'll
Okay,
be new
yeah.
to Puster. She'll be in 4th grade, but talking to some of the parents, I'm thinking I'm not sure if she's going to bus or not. But I was talking about drop off, and I'm like, okay, well, we have 2 entrances here, right? We have Hart. It would be convenient for me to go Hart. I'm right there,
Yeah,
right where I'm
right.
located.
Yeah.
But mom said, no. It's frowned upon. You need to go in
Through
for
the
traffic
back
control.
way.
Go in from
Off the
right
country club.
It
Yes.
would honestly it'd
Instead
probably
of
quicker.
Hart.
Go Stacy, go up Highway 5, go 1378, and come in that way.
Yeah.
Well, just make
As
it
opposed
one
to
way
Hart
for
from-
those 2 hours, maybe an hour in the morning, an hour in the afternoon.
Yeah, so those are the kind of things we're going to talk about.
Deborah came for me if that happens.
Oh yeah. So we've talked about other things. Yeah, again, TxDOT. It's hard to get TxDOT to do things, and they move at a glacial pace. But they have done some things for us. But we've asked for a turning lane at Hart in 1378.
Okay.
So
That would
go
help.
north
Yeah,
and
that would
southbound, and then and that's probably the most dangerous intersection. There and Stone Creek are both dangerous intersections, but that one's a busy one. And then we've asked for a light at Stoddard. And so
a good idea.
we're seeing, but the problem is with TxDOT, they have this mandate. They quote the rules, and the state says you got to do it this way, and they can't break the rules, so to speak. And so in September they're going to be running some studies for us, and then out of those studies, after they come back with us, then we might see what we get out of that.
Okay.
So
Okay, we talked about drainage. We've talked about traffic. What are the other issues that Fairview's facing?
the other two issues. One of them I wrote about in my last mayor's message: speeding in neighborhoods. We have
See a lot of next door posts about that.
yes, and it's really just kind of started again. We have some neighborhoods that Oakwood, Sycamore Place. If you like Ashwood, it's a dead end street,
Right.
a narrow dead
I
end
thought
street.
that would be I didn't realize there was that much traffic on.
There's not that much
on
traffic,
Ashwood.
but the problem is somebody's figured out if you drive 40 miles an hour down that street, you don't feel the speed bumps.
Oh.
So I mean that's what I've been
no.
told. So there's a couple people over there that asked us to do something. So there's very little what we can do. I mean, there's already speed bumps there.
Set up a camera, which
we're not allowed to do that.
well let the neighbors do it
they
and
can-
shame the people into
I'm
slowing down.
all for that. People want us to have the police sitting there. Well, again, as I mentioned, we have 2 officers
Yeah.
on duty, and that's a street where nobody goes down except the one guy going 40 miles an hour. I mean, I got people that speed in my neighborhood going by my house.
Yeah.
And the issue is it's not, everybody says, well, it's kids or something like that. No, it's not. It's adults who live in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
They forget what they're doing. They're in a hurry. They're going to pick up their kids at school. They're going to work. And they just, so I made a kind of a big plea in my last mayor's message. It's 25 in our neighborhoods. Please try to do
Yeah.
that.
Well, this
Yeah.
may not be real popular, but the area that I live, we live in Lucas. There was a subdivision right next to us called Huntwick Estates, and we've got speed bumps seems like 300 yards maybe.
Yeah.
And the same thing happened. People figure out if you really hit those things fast, it's a smooth ride.
Especially if you're in a truck or something.
Exactly,
You don't feel it.
right. So what they did is they
Goodness.
put cameras out and they captured those vehicles, and they got their license plates too.
Oh, good.
And so there is something can be
Yeah.
done.
Well, I know in one place they've actually done that in town, but I don't know that they've.
I don't think you can give tickets,
it.
but you can shame someone.
That would be a neighbor kind
Slow
of
it
thing. You
down.
can do that, yeah.
Yeah.
So
All
yeah,
it takes is one kid getting killed.
not one kid. I mean, I'll relate something to y'all that really made me think about this. I was playing golf out of Heritage Ranch, and I take different. I live on the west side of town. That's on the far east side. So I've got multiple ways to get home. And I was driving down Hart Road. It was just about dark, and I drive the speed limit, and it's 25 on Hart Road. And I was creeping along, kind of watching what's going on, looking at some of the development, looking at the road, and here's a golf cart, 6 kids in it,
Oh my gosh.
in the
Probably
dark.
no lights on.
No lights, they're supposed to,
Oh,
but
man.
6 kids. And if I had been going fast, I would have hit that. Because they were coming at me. I would have never seen them.
Wow.
So that told me something.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
was,
Carts are very popular out here, by the way. Golf
Yeah,
carts are.
yeah.
But without sidewalks, they're always on the
yeah.
streets. And
I don't
it
mind.
could be
It doesn't bother me with kids
yeah.
doing that. It
they
really
just got to
doesn't
be
at all.
careful.
Yeah.
Okay,
Turn the
so
lights
traffic and what
traffic,
else?
speeding, and then the other thing is internet access.
Yeah.
So again, I've written about this recently. I literally as recently as Friday. We kind of have Suddenlink is on the east side of town, AT&T, Uverse, DSL on kind of the west side of town. There's a couple of folks over on this side of town have Spectrum, and if you go out into Heritage Ranch, they have Grande Communications. And we hear little complaints about Grande out there. I don't hear much about Spectrum on this side of town, but where AT&T is, it's reliable, but it's slow. Where Suddenlink is, it's really fast, but it's not reliable. So we have been working with Suddenlink and AT&T, and I've been really pushing AT&T. I'm a former bellhead a long time ago, worked with AT&T people for a long time, and lo and behold, we have AT&T bringing fiber to town.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So
Last
That
time
is
we
great.
talked, we were talking about what Lucas is trying to
Yep,
do. You
yep.
said, no, we can't do
we
that.
don't, and Lucas, they had an election on that.
Yeah,
It lost, and that There is a town in Bellevue in state of Texas that does that.
That's the model.
It is, I don't know how they do it. It's really expensive. You got to hire people. Telecom people get paid double what city employees get paid. It's I don't know how that works, but AT&T is coming to town. They are making a big investment in this whole area. I'll just tell you
So
that.
they're going to
That's
have
great news.
throughout Fairview.
They will. I don't know that for a fact.
But that's their goal.
I think their goal is that. So what AT&T?
You talk about adding value
big
to
time.
these homes out
Yeah,
here,
so-
because we have lost sales. When
Yeah,
people
I know,
checked
and
into
I've
it.
heard of people moving out of town because of that.
Yeah.
So it especially was exacerbated when with the COVID and the kids at school and
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mom-
that was a big
Yeah.
issue.
and
that we're
you know
having.
mom and dad working at home
Right.
out of their house and again we have a lot of people here trying to cut the cord. They're streaming, and you got multiple people screaming or gaming or something like that. I mean, it doesn't work, especially on the west side of town. You can't do that. Over with Suddenlink, when it's working, they can do that. But the problem with Suddenlink, it's just down a lot.
Yeah.
So again, Suddenlink is going to be making some changes. Suddenlink is a cable company. Cable companies, my experience is they grow by acquiring a whole bunch of little people, and they bought the company used to be here. Again, I've been here since '90, and we had this cable company. It was Tyler something it was called, and they literally were out of Tyler, Texas. Suddenlink is still out of Tyler, Texas. When you call, that's where it is. They're repair people and people that do installation stuff are in Tyler. So, but they're moving their head end out of they're actually not moving it, but they're moving Fairview's connection. We connect to their network in Terrell, Texas. Terrell, Texas.
So explain this. AT&T is coming into Fairview, but the connection is going to be made.
No, not AT&T. I'm talking about
Suddenlink.
Suddenlink now.
Oh, Suddenlink.
Suddenlink.
Okay.
So Suddenlink is going to rearrange their network. They're going to take us out of Terrell. They told us they were going to
Okay.
do this 2 years ago. It hadn't been done yet.
Yeah.
But they're going to move it to Anna. So it'll be a lot closer.
Okay, yeah,
So the
makes
quality
sense.
should be better. There won't be as many people on the network. I'm told that they made some rearrangements in Oakwood to make some things better over a year or so ago. And I, honest to God, I haven't heard as many complaints as I've had in the past about Suddenlink. But what AT&T is doing is they literally are laying fiber, just like they used to lay copper wires all over the place.
Has that started?
It has started. They are in
no idea.
Villas in the
I didn't
Park.
either.
They're in there.
So they're going to high density first.
So,
and then
well,
moving
no,
to
they're
the
just
lower
starting
density?
from this side of town. I
Okay.
think it has to do with how their network's
Okay.
set up.
All right.
Earth tones and brick and stone, and what the Howard Hughes Corporation was going to be doing over there was glass buildings.
More
look
modern.
So they have built. They're into, and they're actually offering service. They're in Apples Crossing. This is McKinney, but in Serenity. I've had the developers, the Kelly Stoddard Pizzulli property folks call them and tell them that we're building. So it's greenfield. It's easier for them to get in there. They have gone down Greenville. They've laid cable in there. They have laid cable up Meandering Way and around. They're going into River Oaks 1 and 2 right now, literally right now. I've seen them at my neighborhood, Sloan Creek, at the entrance. There's cable there. So they are.
What
they are
convinced them to do this?
So there's several things that have made that. One, I think the biggest thing is that AT&T bought Time Warner a number of years ago, and they've decided that they make money on their streaming services, and they need to have access through AT&T to get people to their streaming services.
Okay.
So if you're on Suddenlink, you're not going to use AT&T. You're going to go some other way. So I think that was probably their overwhelming thing.
Okay.
We pushed them and that kind of stuff, but we'd like to take credit for it, but I'm not going to do that. There is a couple in town whose son, I learned literally yesterday, is the CEO of AT&T Communications.
Oh.
So when
I wonder if he lives in Fairview.
no, he
does-
doesn't. His parents do.
Okay.
But
there's
there
one
is
small section over in far East Fairview.
yes,
That
and
has
there is
fiber.
there is an AT&T executive who lives in
I
that
heard there
neighborhood.
was an exec that
There
lived
is
there.
one.
That's what they
I don't
told
know
me.
who that is, but that's why it's there. I do know that.
Okay.
So
How can they afford to do that? Bypass everything
Big-
just to go to one area? How can they?
It's their money, they're building out to their executive. It's other people. So we
He
have
must
a
have some swagger.
person in the domain. There's no secret about this. Who works for Toyota? Is executive with Toyota, and Toyota paid for AT&T to put fiber to his house.
Okay.
That was done about a year ago, and so why I it's nice that we want to take credit for this, but AT&T has made a corporate decision to go out and do this because
fantastic.
if you drive around East Allen, there's AT&T signs everywhere. If you drive around in Twin Creeks in Allen, AT&T signs. Star Creek over in Allen, AT&T signs everywhere.
Yes.
So they are making a big push. And we're talking about East Allen here, not the most wealthy places and stuff. I mean, nice homes, but they're building out everywhere they can right now.
That's great. Well, that's going to make our job much easier.
It will be huge when it gets, again, I meet with Matt monthly at least, and my big deal is to get him over to some of these places that I've been talking to for years. People on Old Stacy Road. There's some people there, Woody Crest Circle, who have been trying to get something for years. My son, you may know, is the pastor of Creekwood United Methodist Church. During COVID, they were trying to keep in touch with some of the kids, and he's a young guy. So he would go out to people's homes. And he told me stories of he would go to people's homes where the kids, normally would be excited to see him, but they were crying because their internet was down and they couldn't do their school lessons. I mean, it was just heartbreaking.
Yeah.
So we're just keep the pressure on. That's the best I can say.
Yeah, well, that's fantastic.
So drainage, speeding,
Good.
and internet access.
Good.
Those are the
Golly,
three big ones.
you've made, light years of progress since the last time we talked.
Yes.
Hopefully in 6 more months you'll have more exciting news
Hopefully
for us.
we got it. I mean, if they get River Oaks done, then Bridal they're in Bridal Grade 2. I'm told they're going into there. Then you go down up Stacy Road and you go into Oakwood down there, and then you got Old Stacy, and you work your way up, and they're coming around 1378. So
do they show you what they're? Do you actually have a diagram of what they're doing?
This is a big marketing secret for them.
Is it coming to your house first?
Yeah, my house first. Yeah, no, I'll be on the list whenever they get there. So what they have showed me is he brought his cell phone to me. This goes back a couple of months ago, and he pulled up the map, and he's like trying to make it big so I can read it. All I could see was I recognize that's Fairview. I couldn't tell from there. Yeah. He couldn't give it to me because it's competitive information.
Oh yeah, I get it. I love living in Lucas. Yeah. Lucas is more laid back. Feels a bit more like country. Yeah. Doesn't have the panache, although those homes are getting very expensive.
Yeah,
in Lucas
they are.
too.
Yeah, they are.
But it doesn't have the panache and the sizzle of Fairview. And we're not making progress as quickly as you guys are here. So I don't know what the reason is. Maybe because you're closer to 75 than Lucas is.
I'm going to guess that's probably part of it. We have a big commercial area and multifamily, denser housing.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, Lucas is never going to have that, I don't think.
Right.
And it's just, it's a different kind of place.
Yeah. Well, you're doing a great job as usual, and I'm going to give you a call in another 6 months.
All right. Well, it's
thank
my
you
pleasure.
so much, and I guess I'll see you tomorrow.
I'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow.
Christy, for sitting in on this.
Thanks.
Thank
Nice
you
to
for
meet
having
you.
me.
Yes. Good to have you.